billahi minash shaitanir rajim. Bismillahir rahmanir rahim. I'd like to start off by saying assalamu alaikum to everyone here. Now yesterday we discussed Martydom of Imam Hussain and the rise of the fitna. And we briefly sort of touched upon the fact that the rise of the fitna started in the three cities, Kufa, Basra and Egypt. And we ended finally with the fact that Egypt was, the man from Egypt was one who ended up murdering Umar RadiAllahu Anhu and the third caliph of Islam. And the situation sort of started and sort of expanded further from the sort of servant and writer of Umar RadiAllahu Anhu and the scribe as such. He was known by the name of Martydom. This leads us on to the topic of today, which is Imam Hussain RadiAllahu Anhu versus Yazeed The Tyrant. And we were discussing again briefly the characters of the Islam aspect.
الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم أما بعد فالسلام عليكم ورحمة الله تعالى وبركاته. My dear respectful brothers, first of all I want to thank all of you for your patience. Alhamdulillah, we always got on time, that's a good sign. But one of the things I want to say is, first of all and foremost, Jazakallah khairan for your commitment to this series. Alhamdulillah, we never look at the quantity, we look at the quality of people that come. And I said to Brother Mahmoud, even if there's 100 people or 200 people, my presentation will always be the same. Even if there's one person there, I will not make him feel that he's the only one there. I will give the same quality, because these are the days of Imam Hussain and the days of the Ahlul Bayt. And Imam Hussain calls those who he loves, and it's depending upon that. It's a hard struggle. For me, yes, it's very demanding, because every day I have to do at least 3 to 4 hours research to present the core message or information to yourselves. And then also it's a big commitment from you, so may Allah reward you for your commitment, and for every second you hear, may Allah bless you. Jazakallah khair to Brother Uthman for his commitment and dedication. I know he's a busy person. Studying English as a degree isn't easy, especially with the amount of books they tell you to read. But alhamdulillah ala kulli hal. Yesterday was quite unique, because we went through some parts of the martyrdom of Uthman ibn Affan Dhul Nurayn radiyallahu anhu, and we discussed that the fitna between the fitan within the Muslims, the division within the Muslims began at that time. Why? Because Islam had spread so far, and many people who lived in these lands, specifically in Egypt and Iraq, were not people who had first experience of Islam. They weren't the Sahaba, they weren't from the Tabi'een, in the sense that they studied with the Sahaba. These were people that Islam went there, they converted to Islam and so forth. And we discussed the fitna and in regards to how Sayyidina Uthman radiallahu anhu was martyred and so forth. Today is quite different, in the sense that tomorrow will be tomorrow is the background to the Battle of Karbala. And I was speaking to Brother Mahmoud. He was saying that yesterday I didn't go over a lot of the issues between Sayyidina Ali and Muawiyah radiallahu anhu. We very briefly went through the battle of Camel, the battle between Aisha radiallahu anha on one side, Talha Zubair radiyallahu anhu ajma'in, and Ali on the other side. What was the reason behind that? And we addressed very briefly, because time didn't permit. Inshallah, tomorrow I'm going to speak about the background of Karbala. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to speak briefly about the martyrdom of Mawla Ali, Karamallahu ta'ala wajhul kareem. Then we're going to speak about the Khilafah, or the Khilafat system, or the Amir, or the leadership going to Hassan, his son. What was the conditions of that? And then we want to briefly look at tomorrow the conditions of the sulha between Muawiyah and Hassan radiallahu anhuma. What was the conditions between them? And then we want to look at how Yazeed was elected tomorrow. But today what we want to do is we want to look at two characters. On one hand is Yazeed the Tyrant. We want to look at his character, who he is as a person. answer certain objections that people have in regards to saying or telling us issues which are not factual or academically documented in the text or in the books of the ulama. That's number one. Secondly, we want to then look at Imam Hussain on the other hand. So we want to give you a comparison. We want to highlight without being biased. We don't want to be biased. We want to show you who Yazeed was according to the ulama, according to the factual evidences. So we don't want to exaggerate. So what I've done today is I've left out all the narrations which are fabricated, all the narrations which are weak, and I've only kept to those narrations which are authentic. So no one can say, well, you're using fabricated. It's extremely important we do that. And secondly, we want to look at who Imam Hussain is, Radi Allahu Anhu. And the areas that I want to discuss today are, one is the character of Yazeed. The second thing I want to look at, which is an objection that people make, was Yazeed's leadership legitimate according to Islamic law? Was Yazeed a legitimate leader? What did the ulama, the usuliyun, what did our usuli ulama say? They are the ulama that pertain or put down the conditions of how you elect a leader. Like you were asking, what is the procedure of electing a khalifa? Is there a procedure? Are there terms? Are there conditions? Are there shurut, sharait? What are they? So we want to look at that. Number three, we want to look at, did some of the Sahaba give bay'ah to Yazeed and why? There was some Sahaba, RadiAllahu Anhu, RadiAllahu Anhu that did give bay'ah allegiance to Yazeed. So we want to look at who they were and why they give bay'ah. And what type of bay'ah was that? And what is the position of Ahle Sunnah Wal Jammah ulama regarding that? It's extremely important. Because the objection that people that praise Yazeed, they say, well, if he was such a bad man, why did the Sahaba give bay'ah to him? So we want to look at that. The third area we want to look at is two areas. One is that some people have an objection and say that Yazeed did not order the murder of Imam Hussain. It wasn't Yazeed was behind it, number one. Number two, they said that Yazeed showed remorse and regret. That when Imam Hussein's honorable head came to him in Damascus, in Syria, Yazeed showed some type of remorse and regret. So we want to look at that. Did he show remorse? Was it a regret? What type of regret was it? What is the overall picture in regards to that from a geopolitical perspective and a social perspective? And we want to look at, did he order the killing of Imam Hussain? What did the ulama say that? For that reason I brought one text with me which is an extremely strong, it has a lot of value amongst the ulama, the Ash'ari ulama and the Maturidi ulama. These are the two schools of Aqidah. We have two predominant schools in Aqidah. One is the school of the Ash'ari ulama and one is the Maturidi ulama. So we want to look at what did the Akabirin ulama, what have they written or what have they said regarding that. Then the final part of Yazeed that I want to look at is an argument that people use to try to praise him and try to show that he was praised or forgiven for his sins, is that they use a hadith from, they call it the hadith of Constantinople. Okay, even though there's no hadith called hadith of Constantinople, and we'll go across that when we get to it. Anyway, people use it as an excuse to say that Yazeed is forgiven because of this hadith. So we want to look at what did the muhaddithin say about this hadith. So we want to look at every angle of the objections that the people bring forward to us, and academically with adab and respect we want to answer it. And finally we want to look at the virtues of Imam Hussain. Even if you don't have time, we all know who Al-Hussain Radhi Allahu Anhu were. So the first part, or the first thing I want to look at, is regarding the legitimacy of Yazeed's leadership. Now briefly, what basically happened was the Muslim empire or the Muslim lands had vastly went over many lands. The Prophet said ﷺ in the hadith which is found in many books of hadith, the Prophet said Al-Khulafa Ar-Rashida will last for 30 years. After that will be kingship. After that will be kingship. The Khulafa last for 30 years. From that 30 years, the final 6 months is the leadership of Imam Hassan al-Mujtaba radiyallahu anhu. If you don't have Imam Hassan al-Mujtaba in there, Al-Imam al-Sayyuti ala rahmatullah alayhi, who passed away 911 after Hijri, he authored a book called Tariq al-Khulafa. It's available in English too, and you should buy it and read it. In that book, Imam al-Sayyuti, may Allah reward him for doing this, ala rahmatullah alayhi, at the end of the book he has a part that the fifth Khalifa, the fifth leader of the Muslims was Imam al-Hassan, the son of Sayyidina Ali. So what happened was, after this incident happened, after Imam Hassan's leadership, he abdicated. He had sulha. The deal of the sulha, which I'll speak about in detail tomorrow, was basically that he would give up his leadership, and that leadership would go to Muawiyah radiallahu anhu. And what would happen is, after Muawiyah dies, that leadership would come back to Imam al-Hassan, and after Imam al-Hassan it would go to Imam al-Hussain. That was the point. That was the agreement that was given. Now what happened towards 53 after Hijri, we're looking at approximately, some person came to Muawiyah, who was the leader of the Muslims, and said to him, why don't you elect a leader, or why don't you choose a successor in your place? So what he did was, he said to the people, or he said to the person, who do you recommend me to put as a leader? And all of them agreed there, and then said, we recommend Abdurrahman bin Khalid bin Walid. Khalid bin Walid's son was called Abdurrahman. He was a general. He said, we recommend that he should be the leader. Now this was something that historically is a fact, without being biased and without being any disrespectful to anyone. Muawiyah did not like this, Radiyallahu Anhu. He didn't like this suggestion, because he wanted obviously his own son to succeed after him. It's a proven fact. We cannot lie. We will stay as academically as possible, because remember the first day we spoke about what? The virtues of the Sahaba. We said we should be as respectful, but at the same time we want to be as academic as possible. We don't want to sugarcoat anything. We want to give the facts that are there, so that it doesn't fool people. So what happened there was, one of his advisors goes to Muawiyah and says, no, you should appoint your son Yazeed. So what Muawiyah then did, Radiyallahu Anhu, he then galvanized support amongst the Muslim world for giving the bay'ah to Yazeed, and he forced some people to give the allegiance to his son, which we will discuss later. Now the point is, Muawiyah now passes away Radiyallahu Anhu, and Muawiyah is a Sahabi, may Allah be pleased with him, and we do not speak ill of the Sahaba Ridwanullah alayhim ajma'in. Now when he passed away, immediately Yazeed becomes the leader, because Syria is supportive of his father's regime. So we now want to look at what is the view of the ulama. Number one, the ulama are in agreement. There is a disagreement amongst the ulama on whether Yazeed is a kafir or not. There is a disagreement. There are three aqwal. There are three. The view I follow, which I will tell you now, I believe he's a non-Muslim, which I follow the view of Imam Taftazani ala rahmatullah alayhi, and the view of my teacher, or my shuyukh, the Ghumariyun scholars, and my Shaykh Hazur Sayyid Abdul Qadir Jilani's view is, or the view I follow of my teachers, is that they believe Yazeed was a non-Muslim. However, saying that, I accept there's a difference of opinion. Do you understand? However, there is no difference on the fisq and the fujur of Yazeed. There is no difference that he was a fasiq, he committed fisq, he committed haram, and he was a fajir. There is no doubt, there is no ulama, whether you follow the ultimate Salafi ulama, whether you follow the Diobandi ulama, whether you follow the Brahmi, if you want to call it ulama, whatever, even if you follow Al-Mawdudi, all scholars from all the different variety of sects have all agreed in unanimous that Yazeed was not a good man. Yazeed was a tyrant. Yazeed was an oppressor. Yazeed was an alcoholic. Yazeed loved alcohol, he loved women, and so forth. There's no doubt. Now the question comes, can such a person who is a fasiq, a fajir, hold a position of public office? That's the question. I quote you now what Abu Bakr al-Jassas ala rahmatullah alayhi says. And Abu Bakr al-Jassas al-Hanafi, he's a Hanafi scholar, and he's amongst the greatest Musuli Hanafi scholars ever, extremely famous. He authored a book called Ahkam al-Quran, And in that book he says, which I translated here, he says it is not, and I'm quoting you now, he says it is not permissible for a zalim, an oppressor, to become a prophet. That one of the signs that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala does when he sends a prophet, he never sent a prophet that was a zalim, an oppressor. Over 124,000 prophets were sent, one narration. Another narration says 300,000 prophets were sent. Out of all of those prophets that were sent, not a single one was a zalim, ma'adallahu ta'ala. So Al-Jassas says that it is not permissible that for a zalim to be a prophet or to become the leader, the Khalifa. It is not permissible for an oppressor to become the leader, nor a representative of a prophet. And he says it is not permissible even for a person who's an oppressor to become a judge in the Islamic lands, to become a qadi. He says it is not permissible for any person who has fisq or fujur in him, anyone who is a fasiq, anyone who is a, in other words, let me put it in another word for you, anyone that's a gunagar Muslim, that openly does haram, openly drinks alcohol, openly disobeys the Sharia, openly disobeys the Quran and the Sunnah, Al-Jassas says, it is not permissible for that person to hold any public office where people have to be obeyed in matters of the deen. You understand? In matters of the deen, a qadi, an imam in the masjid. For example, the opinion of the Hanafi, there is a view which is mentioned in Hidayah, when you study the books of fiqh, that you can pray behind a fasiq. But it's not recommended. Priority should be given to someone who's more rewardable. But if there's no one available, the ulama says it's permissible. But it's highly recommended not to pray behind it. Do you all understand that? He then says the following. Look at this. This is unique. Subhanallah. He says, undoubtedly, a zalim, an oppressor, a fasiq, an open sinner cannot become the leader of the Muslims. An open sinner cannot become the leader of a Muslim. And if a fasiq was to ever take office by force, then the people do not have to obey him in anything, nor do they have to give allegiance to him. Subhanallah. In other words, if a person was an oppressor and he was to become leader by force, a tyrant, a dictator, like the dictators in the Muslim world today, all of them do not have the credentials to be a leader of the Muslim world. You know, the condition is that you must be a good Muslim. And let me quote to you, again quoting to you from this book. Let me tell you about this book, because I will quote from it in more depth later. This is Sharh al-Aqaid. Sharh al-Aqaid is written by Imam Sa'd al-Taftazani ala rahmatullah alayhi. Sa'd al-Taftazani ala rahmatullah alayhi, he was born in, he passed away 792 after Hijri. This book is a commentary on a book on Aqidah written by Imam al-Nasafi. Imam al-Nasafi wrote a book and he was born 461 to 537 after Hijri. Imam Nasafi's Aqidah is very small and he was a Hanafi Imam. And Imam Taftazani is a Shafi'i Imam and he's an Ash'ari. He's not a Maturidi. He came and he explained this in detail. This book is one of the major books that you study in Dars al-Izami. In your final year of Darsiyat, in your final year when you become an alim, or when you study Aqidah, this book you study. In this book, Imam Taftazani quotes Imam Shafi'i and the view of Imam Shafi'i. And this is what Imam Shafi'i says. He says, verily the Imam, and when Imam Shafi'i says the Imam, he's referring to the Khalifa, the leader of the Muslims, i.e. the head of state. Verily the Imam is disqualified by fisq and kufr. The Imam is disqualified by fisq and kufr. Similarly, so is every qadi and anyone who holds high office. Imam Shafi then says, the basic principle of holding office is that that person who is a fasiq, who has committed kufr, who is a fajr, he does not have the right to hold office. Why? Because if he doesn't care about himself, how will he care about the people? If one person drinks alcohol and doesn't care and has no remorse and does it openly, he does zina, he does guna, he does haram, he has no consciousness of Allah. Imam Shafi'i says, if he doesn't care about himself, how will he care about the people? Hence the reason why it's not allowed. And Imam al-Nawawi also says another point. Imam Nawawi says in his Sharh Sahih Muslim that if a leader was to become the head of the Islamic empire, the Muslim world, or become the head of the Muslims, if he then became a fasiq or committed kufr, what is the ruling with such a person? What is the ruling? And Nawawi says if he commits kufr, automatically he is disqualified from becoming the leader. The bay'ah becomes void, null. The bay'ah becomes null. You have to renew your bay'ah with a new leader. You understand? If he commits what? Kufr, blasphemy, clear-cut kufr. Imam Nawawi said if he is to commit, if he is a sinner, a fasiq or a fajr, and Nawawi says that person, if you are able to remove him, remove him. But if you think that fitna will be caused, or bloodshed will be caused, he says stay silent and wait till you have the opportunity to remove such a person. So the ulama were wise. There was a lot of wisdom. So we've discussed that. Let's discuss Yazid's character. Yazid was not an intelligent person. Yazid was not an intelligent person. And Yazid, by character, his character was that he wasn't a good man. You know, some people in their own character, you'll find them maybe in this masjid, by natural sense, they're good people. You find people that, you know, naturally are nice people. Yazid wasn't one of those people. Yazid was a man that loved dunya. He hated to be in the masjid. His whole life was encompassed about worshipping what? Not Allah, but worshipping the dunya. And the ulama, like I said to you, yes, they disagree regarding whether Yazid became a non-Muslim. There's three views on that. But the vast majority of the ulama are, all of the ulama that I've come across, that I read and I researched about, none of them differ in regards to Yazid being a fasiq or a fajr. There's no disagreement. The Prophet said in a hadith, which is narrated by Imam Ibn Hajar al-Haythami in his As-Sawaik al-Muhrika. It's a unique book. And Ibn Kathir has also narrated this hadith in his Al-Bidayah wal-Nihaya. The Prophet said what? The Prophet ﷺ said, my ummah will be destroyed. My ummah will be destroyed at the hands of some young men of Quraysh. On hearing this, who narrated this hadith? Abu Hurairah. Abu Hurairah said, I heard the Messenger of Allah say that this ummah will be destroyed by young people, foolish youngsters from Al-Quraysh. Marwan, who was with him, who we spoke about, who he was yesterday, Marwan turned around and said, may Allah's la'na be upon him. And Abu Hurairah then said, رضي الله عنه وارضاه, that if I wanted to, I could even name you the people. If you wanted me to, I could even name them to you. So they were known, those people were known. In another hadith, Abu Hurairah radiallahu anhu warda, which is again narrated by Al-Bidayah wal-Nihaya, he used to say, I seek Allah's refuge in the year 60 of Islamic calendar. And I seek refuge from the leadership of the children, the young foolish children. And Ibn Hajar al-Asqalani has narrated a saying from the Musnad of Ibn Abi Shaybah ala rahmatul alayh. Ibn Abi Shaybah is a great imam, and he said that Abu Hurairah used to go to the market, in the marketplace, and he used to do dua. He used to say, oh Allah, do not allow me to see the 60th year of Islamic calendar. Oh Allah, let me die, give me death. Do not let me see this, and don't let me see the rule of the youth. Do not let me see the rule of whom? The young people. This was the 60th of the Hijri. This is mentioned in Fathul Bari by Ibn Hajar al-Asqalani ala rahmatul alayh. Ibn Hajar, when he explained this hadith, he said, one of the first of those people who the Prophet said that this ummah will be destroyed by foolish people from Al-Quraysh, Ibn Hajar says one of the first people from that was Yazeed. And Ibn Hajar says that the hadith of Abu Hurairah is a proof of that. Why? Because in the 60th year of Islamic Hijri, Yazeed became the leader, the illegitimate leader of the Muslims. In the 60th, towards the end of the 59th Hijri, his father Muawiyah radiallahu anhu passed away. He then became the leader. And another example which fulfills what the Prophet said, the emirate of foolishness, when he said, seek refuge from the rule of foolishness, Shah radiallahu muhaddith Delbi ala rahmatullah alayhi says, the meaning of foolishness is not that they will, the meaning of young does not mean there will be children. It means there will be men, but they will be immature in the intellect. They will be immature. And he says what? Again, let me quote you what Badruddin al-Aini says. Al-Badruddin al-Aini is a great Hanafi scholar. Al-Aini says, when the Prophet said, my ummah will be destroyed at the hands of some foolish youth, he said one of the things that Yazeed did when he became a leader, he removed all of the elderly governors in the Muslim land. He removed all of them. And he replaced the governors in the Muslim land with whom? His young, immature relatives. He appointed his relatives in that position. So the first of them was Yazeed. And that is why Al-Badruddin al-Aini then says, may Allah give him what he deserves. May Allah curse him. That is exactly what Al-Aini says about Yazeed. And there is another incident that Imam bin Hussain is a Sahabi, a very famous Sahabi. He narrated a hadith that the Prophet ﷺ, and he narrates that the Prophet ﷺ, that when he passed away, the Prophet hated 3 tribes. There were 3 tribes from the Arabs that the Prophet hated. Number 1 was the tribe of Thaqif. Number 2 was Banu Hanifa. And number 3 was Banu Umayyah. Why did he hate Banu Thaqif? What was the reason? Was because Hajjaj bin Yusuf was from that tribe. Who is Hajjaj bin Yusuf? Hajjaj bin Yusuf is after Yazeed, a few leaders later, Hajjaj bin Yusuf that becomes the illegitimate leader of the Muslims. Who is Hajjaj? He is responsible for killing and imprisoning over 120,000 Muslims. Okay? The ulama say, there's a saying of the ulama, that if you got 100 munafiqeen together, if you got 100 hypocrites together, and you put them together, they will not outweigh the hypocrisy and the evilness of Hajjaj bin Yusuf. So the Prophet used to hate his tribe. The second tribe that the Prophet used to hate was Hanifa, the tribe of Hanifa. Why? Because Muslim al-Kadhab was from there. Muslim al-Kadhab is whom? He's the person who claimed to be a prophet towards the end of the Prophet's life. And that is when Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu, Allah sent an army to fight him when he became a leader. That was the first offensive war of the Muslims. And the third tribe that the Prophet hated was Banu Umayyah, the tribe of Umayyah. Why? Because from that tribe, Yazeed was from that tribe, and Ibn Ziyad. Ibn Ziyad was the governor of Kufa, and he was the one who carried out the order of murdering Imam Hussain in Karbala. Even though he sent an army under the leadership of Umar bin Sa'ad bin Abi Waqas. Umar is the son of Hazrat Sa'ad bin Abi Waqas radiyallahu anhu. Sa'ad is a Sahabi, but Umar bin Sa'ad is a tyrant. He lived the dunya, his own father kicked him out of the house. There's many narrations about him. You just need to open any book of Ilm al-Rijal. Predominantly, if you want a recommendation, you can read Al-Mizi's book, Imam Al-Mizi ala rahmatullah alayhi. His book is called Tahdhib al-Kamal. It's 12 volumes, about 9,000 pages, and that is like a biography of all of the major narrators of hadith in Kutub al-Sittah. All the narrators are in there. I have it, alhamdulillah. And you can go to Ibn Hajar, Tahdhib al-Tahdhib, and you can find that information. Now, Ibn Hajar's view. What is the view of Imam Ibn Hajar al-Asqalani? Who is Ibn Hajar? Ibn Hajar al-Asqalani is called Amir al-Mu'mineen fil Hadith. He is called Al-Hafidh Al-Hadith. What does Al-Hafidh Al-Hadith mean? Al-Hafidh Al-Hadith is the one who has memorized well over 100,000 hadith. He knows the hadith by heart. He knows the full chain by heart. He knows the ruling of the hadith by heart. He knows the biography of every single person who is narrated in the hadith. He means a master of hadith. And Ibn Hajar is of such a level that when you read the books of Islam, when they quote him, they won't say Ibn Hajar, they say Al-Hafiz said this. Al-Hafiz said this. And automatically the reader knows when they say Al-Hafiz, they're referring to Ibn Hajar Asqalani, ala rahmatullah alayhi. And who is he? Ibn Hajar is also that person who authored one of the most famous commentaries on Sahih Muslim, Sahih Bukhari, called Fathul Bari. He is a giant imam. If you open any book of any scholars, brothers at the back, Bayt, Hassan, come on Shri, please. Listen to what we do, please. Don't talk. Thank you, Jazakallah khair. Imam Ibn Hajar Asqalani, if you read his book Al-Fathul Bari, or if you open any of the books of any of the scholars, time and time again everyone is quoting, the most quoted book in explaining Bukhari Sharif is Fathul Bari. Okay, what does he say? This is his view on Yazeed, Ali ibn Hajar Asqalani. He says loving and glorifying him, Yazeed, is not done except by a zindiq. A'udhu billah. He said the only people that would love Yazeed and the only person that would glorify him would be a zindiq. Zindiq means a heretic. It means a misguided Muslim in Aqidah, not in Amal. It means his belief is misguided. Ibn Hajar says that person who has this belief that Yazeed has such characteristics that were good, he is a heretic. He says Yazeed, his characteristics are known, and the only person that would love him is a heretic. That is what Ibn Hajar says. Ibn Hajar then quotes from him a full chain back to Umar bin Abdul Aziz, that once they were sitting with Umar bin Abdul Aziz radiyallahu anhu, one of the great leaders, one of the very few from the Banu Umayyah, and he was the leader of the Muslims. And what happened? Someone in his presence said Amir al-Mu'mineen Yazeed. What did he say? The leader. Amir al-Mu'mineen is the title for whom? The leader of the Muslims. And Umar bin Abdul Aziz turned around and said, what did you say? And then all the gathering of Umar bin Abdul Aziz then said, whip him 20 times. He says, how dare you call Yazeed? He says, may Allah's curse be on Yazeed. Who said that? Umar bin Abdul Aziz. And Imam al-Zahabi. Who is al-Zahabi? Al-Zahabi is again one of the most prestigious and most learned scholars in the science of Ilm al-Rijal. What do we mean by Ilm al-Rijal? Ilm al-Rijal means the biography of the narrators of hadith. Imam al-Zahabi. Al-Zahabi, look what he says about Yazeed, how he describes Yazeed. He says he, Yazeed, was a disgusting Nasbi. Nasbi means someone who hates the Prophet's family. He said Yazeed was a disgusting Nasbi. He drank and he was an evil man. Look what he says now, pay attention. He said he started his kingdom by killing Imam Hussain, and he ended it with the incident of Al-Harra, which is the besieging of the people of Medina and Munawwara. And he says for that reason, may Allah's la'na, may Allah's curse be upon him. And he said for that reason, the Muslims hated him, and the Muslims had hatred towards him even until the Day of Judgment. Don't you realize that? That till the Day of Judgment, does anyone remember Yazeed at all? Does anyone who has the right mind praise Yazeed and remember him? Everyone every year in Muharram, Karbala, remembers who? Imam Hussain. But no one remembers Yazeed. This was one of the punishments that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala did to him. And hence people, I'm continuing what Al-Dhahabi says, hence people hated him. He was not blessed in life, he died young. Yes, he died young. He was not healthy, he was very unhealthy, he had every disease. he had every illness, especially after he murdered Imam Hussain. Remember one point, brothers. Every single person that took part in the battle of Karbala, every single person that killed Imam Hussain, it is an agreement that every single one of them died a disgusting death. Every one of them died a degrading death, a la'na death, a cursed death. Every single one of them. Example, Ibn Ziyad. When Ibn Ziyad, when the head, and I'll talk about it when we get there in a few days, when the head of Imam Hussain came to him, he poked it with a stick. And what happened to Ibn Ziyad when Ibn Ziyad died? When Ibn Ziyad died, a snake appeared. A snake went into his nose and came out of his eyes. They said his body has such an odor, such a disgusting odor, that no one wanted to even give ghusl to him. That was the punishment. And Al-Dhahabi says, many people took up arms against Yazid. For what reason? For him killing Imam Hussain. He says an example of that were the people of Medina Sharif and Mecca that rose against Yazid. So Yazid, let's conclude. Yazid was an alcoholic. He drank alcohol day and night. In his majlis, in his gathering, the only thing you heard was music and women dancing nakedly in front of him. It's a proven fact that this is what used to happen. Yazid used to drink alcohol so much, and this is mentioned by Ibn Athir in his Tariq al-Dimishqi, that Yazid used to drink so much alcohol that he became so intoxicated that he couldn't control himself, that he would fall over, and he used to expose his aura. He used to expose his private parts which he wasn't supposed to expose. That is how disgusting this man was. That is how Allah cursed him. That is how Allah humiliated him. And Yazid used to keep the company of animals, dogs, in his majlis. He used to love monkeys. That even when a monkey died, he used to mourn the monkey like a man mourns a relative. A'udhu billah. That was his state of mind. He wasn't intelligent. And he used to keep young boys with him. So I know you all understand what I mean by that. This is narrated by, again, Al-Dimishqi says this. Sorry, Ibn Athir mentioned this. And he used to eat haram. He used to eat khanzir, pig. He used to drink alcohol. And when he drank alcohol, people would say to him, "Oh Yazid, don't you know according to the Sunnah and according to the Sharia of Muhammad Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wa sallam, drinking alcohol is haram?" He said, "Yes, according to the deen and the Sharia of Muhammad it is wrong, but I drink alcohol according to the religion of Isa." A'udhu billah. That is how arrogant he was in his behavior. And one narration which Shah Abdul Aziz Muhaddith Delbi mentions, one day Yazid got up for Salatul Fajr. He was drunk. Okay, he led the Fajr prayer drunk. He led it. Can you imagine? As an Imam, he was drunk. He never knew what to do right. And he's leading the people in namaz. And then he said to the people afterwards, "If you want me to, I can read another 4 for you now." That is how cursed he was as a person. And he used to love gambling. He was a big gambler. He loved gambling. And he used to make the haram into halal. That is the reason why many of the ulama said he was a kafir, because of that reason. Because we have a principle in our usul. Imam Taftazani discusses it in his Sharh al-Aqaid. What is it? If you make something which Allah made halal into halal, if you make something which Allah made haram halal, you become a kafir. So if you say drinking alcohol is halal, you become a kafir automatically. Your nikah with your wife is void. So this is the mentality. And in the Tabaqat al-Kubra, a book, there is an incident. Do all of you know a person called Abdullah bin Hanzala radiallahu anhu? Brother, you can sit on the chair if you want to, comfortably, no problem. Sit as comfortable as possible, please. So you have no issues at all. Do all of you know Abdullah bin Hanzala radiallahu anhu warda? He is that Sahabi that when he passed away, listen to this, subhanallah, no one did his ghusl. So the angels came and did his ghusl. Itna bahut bade Sahabi the radiallahu anhu warda. What did Abdullah bin Hanzala say? He said, we went to Yazeed in Damascus, we visited him, and he came back. The people said, oh Abdullah, how did you find Yazeed? He says, when we visited Yazeed, he says, may Allah's la'na be upon him, may Allah's curse be upon him. He says, I felt like Allah was going to, shoot from the skies, rocks of fire to destroy us. And the people said, why? He said, because Yazeed made halal the nikah between a mother and a son. Yazeed made it halal the nikah between a brother and a sister. That is how disgusting this man was. And these aren't fabricated things. This isn't, and like I said to you at the beginning, I'm not quoting you the weak narrations. If I quoted you the weak narrations, you would be shocked. I'm only quoting you that which is acceptable by the Imam. And the three most heinous crimes of Yazeed were what? He became the leader in 60 after Hijri. He died at the beginning of 64. May Allah's curse be upon him. How did he start his leadership? He committed three major crimes. How many? Three major crimes. Number one, he murdered Imam Hussain on the plains of Karbala. A'udhu Billah, the son of the Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. Number two, he sent Muslim bin Uqba, one of his generals, with an army of over 12,000 men. He said to them, go to Medina. This was after Karbala. It was after Karbala. He says, go to Medina. Why? Medina and Makkah Sharif had uprised. They refused to give bay'ah allegiance to Yazeed. They gave their allegiance to whom? Abdullah bin Zubair radiyallahu anhuma. Who is Abdullah bin Zubair? He is the son of Zubair, and Zubair is the cousin of the Prophet. And he is amongst the Ashrat al-Mubashara. And Abdullah bin Zubair is the nephew of Aisha radiallahu anha. He is the son of Asma bin Abi Bakr. He is the grandson. He is the Nawasa, the grandson of Siddiq Akbar radiallahu ta'ala anhu wa arda. That is how great he was. So when the people revolted and gave bay'ah allegiance to whom? This man, Yazeed, sent an army. Look at what they did in Medina Sharif. When they arrived in Medina Sharif, Yazeed said, for 3 days everything is mubah, permissible. Do whatever you want to in Medina is permissible. And let me quote you the hadith of the Prophet. The Prophet ﷺ said, whoever frightens Ahle Medina, whoever frightens the people of Medina, Allah will frighten him on the day of judgment. Number one. The Prophet said, whoever frightens the people of Medina, Allah and His Prophet's curses on those people. In another hadith, the Prophet said, whoever frightens the inhabitants of Medina Sharif, the city of the Prophet said, Allah, His Messenger, and all of mankind's la'na is upon such a person. Curses on such a person. And what did he do? Yazeed came, he sent an army. When the army arrived outside Medina, the Muslims refused to give bay'ah to him. They had a war, they killed everyone, they came into Medina. 700 Sahaba were martyred on that day. 700 either Sahaba or 700 awlad or offsprings or progeny of the Sahaba were martyred on that day. How many? How many people were killed? 10,000 people were murdered in Medina Sharif. They said blood in Medina Sharif was up to the knee high. And they said what? 1,000 women were raped in Medina Sharif that time. Who were those women? They were the awlad and the wives of the Sahaba. Ridwanullah alayhim ajma'in. This is the honor of the women. This is what is. A kafir doesn't even do this. A non-Muslim would not commit sins like this. Yet a person who people call a Muslim like Yazeed committed such a heinous crime. And for 3 days, there was no adhan in the Prophet's masjid. Sa'ad bin Musayyib radiyallahu anhu, one of the tabi'i, he said that when they attacked Medina, I was in the masjid. He's a tabi'i. He says, I began to pretend I was an insane madman. When the soldiers saw me, they said, leave him alone. He says, I was the only one in the masjid for 3 days. He says, Wallahi, there was no adhan, no iqama for any namaz for 3 days. He says, every time for namaz, I heard the adhan directly from the Rawdah of the Prophet ﷺ. I heard, this is Sa'ad bin Musayyib said, he said that Yazeed was such a cursed man that his soldiers, his horses, his camels and cavalry entered into the masjid. Urine and feces of the animals urinated the blessed mimbar of the Prophet ﷺ. And that urine even got close to the road of the Prophet ﷺ. The dhulm that happened is called the dhulm of Hurra or Harsun said. That dhulm that happened in Medina Sharif is unspeakable. No ulama disagree on this. All the ulama are in agreement. Some of them, for political reasons, said that Yazeed did not kill Imam Hussain. Some of them said that. But every single scholar is in agreement. Every single historian is in agreement that this event took place in Medina Sharif. And you can do your own research. So that is what he did in Medina Sharif. Now you tell me, let's take Imam Hussain out of the picture just for a second. Just for a second. Someone that does that in Medina Sharif, you tell me, is that a Muslim? Is that the behavior of a Muslim? Subhanallah. The dhulm that was committed was unspeakable. Can you imagine? What do we have? Our women are our honor. Over 1,000 women. Ibn Kathir says in Al-Bidayah wa Nihaya, Ibn Kathir says that a year after the event in Medina Sharif, 1,000 illegitimate children were born in Medina Sharif. And this was when? Less than 50 years after the Prophet passed away. Sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wa sallam. That was the second crime that Yazeed committed against the people of Medina Sharif. The third crime he committed, after he finished the dhulm in Medina Sharif, he put his attention, or he placed all of his attention to attack Makkah al-Mukarramah. His army went to Makkah, they ransacked everything in the Prophet's Rawdah. There was all gold, treasuries, they took it all. They went towards Mecca. Again they catapulted Mecca, they catapulted with fire. And one side of the Kaaba, the wall was destroyed and the Qissa went on fire. Never in the history of Al-Kaaba, of the Kaaba, never in the history of the Muslims or in the history of the Kaaba has the Kaaba been disrespected the way Yazeed's army did it on that time. These were the three most heinous, three most disgusting crimes committed by Yazeed. So we know, I've now given you an overview to the character of Yazeed. I want to now look at one point very quickly, is why did some Sahaba give bay'ah to him? It's an argument people use and say that if Yazeed was wrong, why did the Sahaba give allegiance to him? There were some Sahaba that did give allegiance to Yazeed. Amongst them was Abdullah ibn Umar Radhi Allahu Anhu. And the story behind that, which is mentioned in Fathul Bari by Ibn Hajar, was that Abdullah ibn Umar was forced to give bay'ah. And they said to him that take this 100,000 dirham, and if you do not give allegiance to Yazeed, here is the sword. The ulama are in agreement that if you or your life or your honor or your property is at stake, it's in fiqh, in the books of fiqh, you are allowed to say those words which are kufr. You are allowed to say I'm not a Muslim. You are allowed to say those things which normally would be kufr itself. But in the circumstance of duress, in the circumstance of having dhulm committed upon you, it is allowed upon you to say those words. So for example, if someone puts a gun at your head and says leave Islam, you can leave Islam and you can say it. and that wouldn't be valid. So many of the Sahaba that did give bay'ah were forced to give bay'ah. Those who freely gave it, after the death of Imam Hussain, all of them broke their bay'ah. The vast majority of them broke their allegiance. And the other thing is, what we want to look at, is what people say that Yazeed did not kill Imam Hussain. He didn't order the killing. Let's look at that. Let me quote to you what Imam Sa'aduddin al-Taftazani says. Who is Imam Taftazani ala rahmatullah alayhi? He is known as one of the greatest Imams of Aqidah. Al-Imam Ibn Hajar Asqalani ala rahmatullah alayhi says that when this man was alive, there was no one like him. There was no number two Taftazani. He was number one of his time. And when he passed away ala rahmatullah alayhi, there was not a soul on the earth that Allah replaced him with. That is how great he was. He was a great mujtahid, a giant imam. He was a great hadith master. He was a great scholar of mantiq, logic, aqidah, fiqh. He was a scholar of every Islamic science. He is a man who is an authority in Islam. He's what? A high authority, not a small authority. Taftazani is amongst the akabirin of the ulama. When someone says, Imam Taftazani says this, you accept it. And he wrote one of Sharh al-Maqasid, which is a 7-volume book on the Aqidah of the Muslims in Arabic. 7 volumes. It's the masterpiece. And let's look at what he says about Yazeed. What was his view? Did Yazeed murder Imam Hussain? Did he order it? Are we allowed to curse Yazeed? Should we curse him? Should we not curse him? Let's look at what Imam Sa'aduddin Taftazani ala rahmatullah alayhi says. Again, 792 of the Hijri, he passed away. Abdurushi par Allah salli ala Sayyidina Mawlana Muhammad. Sayyidina Mawlana Muhammad. Allah salli ala Sayyidina Mawlana Muhammad. In the text preceding what Imam Taftazani says, he speaks about Yazeed's father, Muawiyah radiallahu anhu. And the view is what? Imam Sa'aduddin Taftazani says that the view of the ulama of Ahle Sunnah Wal Jammah, who are the ulama salihin, the pious ulama, he says their view is what? Their view is that Muawiyah radiallahu anhu warda, it is not allowed for you to curse him. Nor can you curse the people that were with him. Why? Because he is from the Sahaba. And Imam Sa'aduddin Taftazani then says, even though he rose and went against Imam Ali radiallahu anhu warda, even though he went against Imam al-Haq, and this is the wording he used exactly, he says even in that circumstance, you cannot still curse Muawiyah radiallahu anhu warda. And then he says, when he discusses it, he says, وَإِنَّمَا اِقْتَلَافُ فِي يَزِيدِ بِن مُعَاوِيَةِ. He says there's a difference of opinion regarding Yazeed, the son of Muawiyah. He said, حَتَّى ذَكَرَ فِي خَلَاسَتِهِ وَغَيْرِهَا. This is mentioned in the book on Khalasa. This is referring to a book written by Imam al-Nawawi and other ulama. أنه لا ينبغي لعن عليه ولا على حجاج. He says that it is not permissible. This is a view. He's giving the first view. What is he doing? The first view of the ulama. That it is not permissible to curse Yazeed, nor is it permissible to curse Hajjaj bin Yusuf, who murdered over 100,000. Why? لأنها النبي عليه السلام نهي عن لعن المسلين ومن كان من أهل القبلة. Why? Because the Prophet prohibited the cursing of the people who played namaz. Ahlul Qibla is a word that is used to describe the people who played the salah. That is the first view. It is what? The first view. And again, what Imam Sa'aduddin Taftazani does, he gives you all of the views and then he gives you his own opinion. So he's not a biased man, subhanAllah. He gives you all of the views and then he gives you his view. He He then says, وَبَعْضُهُمْ أَطْلَاقَ اللَّعْنَ عَلَيْهِ لِمَا أَنْ كَفْرَ حِينَ أَمَرَ بِقَتْلِ الْحُسَيْنِ رضي الله عنه وَارْضَاهُ. Subhanallah. He says, others have said that you can't curse Yazeed. And you can't curse him, why? Because he became a non-Muslim when he murdered Imam Hussain radiallahu anhu. When he murdered Imam Hussain radiallahu ta'ala anhu. Some say that you can't curse or you can't send la'na upon Yazeed because he became an unbeliever when he ordered the murder of Imam Hussain, may Allah be pleased with him. And then he says what? He says, وَاتَّفَقُوا عَلَى جَوَازِ اللَّعْنَ عَلَى مَنْ قَتْلَهُ أَوْ أَمَرَ بِهِ أَوْ أَجَازَهُ أَوْ رَضِيَ بِهِ. He says, anyone who ordered the murder of Hussain, those who murdered Imam Hussain, those who commanded and ordered the killing of Imam Hussain, those who said it was permissible, that it was permissible, those who participated, he says all of them are non-Muslims. All of them are. Now we go to the final part. What is the view of the Imam himself? He says, what is the truth? What is the reality? وَالْحَقُّ أَنَّ رِضَا بِيَزِيدِ بِقَتْلِ الْحُسَيْنِ وَاسْتِبْشَارِهِ بِذَلِكَ وَإِهَانَةِ أَهْلِ الْبَيْتِ النَّبِيِّ عَلَيْهِ الصَّلَاةُ وَالسَّلَامُ بما تواتر معناه فإن كانت تفاصيله أحدا فنحن لا نتوقف في شانه بل في إيمانه لعنة الله عليه وأنصاره وأعوانه. That is exactly what he says. He says the truth is that Yazeed was happy with the killing of Imam Hussain. Yazeed was happy with the killing of Imam Hussain. And Yazeed murdered Imam Hussain. And Yazeed had hatred towards the Prophet's family. And he said those reports regarding the killing of Imam Hussain and regarding the zulm and oppression that Yazeed did, he says all of those narrations come to us by tawatur. What is tawatur? It means mass transmission. Even though the narration was singular. Even though the narration was singular, he says, فَنَحْنُ لَا نَتَوَقُفُ فِي شَعَانِهِ بَلْ فِي إِمَانِهِ. Look at the beauty. He says, but we do not keep silent on what Yazeed did. Today people say what? Some people say, don't speak ill about Yazeed. Don't speak about Karbala. Karbala is a controversial subject. What did Imam Taftazani said? He says, we do not keep quiet about Karbala. Always say Subhanallah. We do not keep quiet about Karbala. We do not keep quiet about the zulm that was committed on the Ahlul Bayt. We do not keep quiet upon the ransacking of the women of the Ahlul Bayt. We do not keep quiet. Who says it? Imam Taftazani. And then he says, بَلْ فِي إِمَانِهِ. Nor do we keep silent upon his iman. He's not a Muslim. La'natullahi alayhi. May Allah's curse be upon him. May Allah's curse be upon his supporters, Ansarihi wa awanihi, and his people. Who did that? Imam Sa'aduddin at-Taftazani ala rahmatullah alayhi. And another narration just to show you that Yazeed was responsible for the killing of Imam Hussain, which people attempt to deny. After Yazeed murdered Imam Hussain and told Ibn Ziyad to murder Imam Hussain, he wrote a letter to the governor called Ibn Ziyad. Ibn Ziyad was the governor of Kufa. He was the one that poked the head of Imam Hussain, poked his teeth. He said to him, I order you now to go to where? Medina. You attack Medina before you appoint a Muslim bin Uqba. You know what Ibn Ziyad said? Ibn Ziyad said, by Allah, I will not for the sake of this fajr, for this fasting, sorry. He says, I will not do this for this man. He says, I've already killed the Prophet's son. I've already killed the Prophet's son. I will not attack Medina. And he refused. And the people from Mecca, and the people of Medina Sharif at that time had given their allegiance to Abdullah bin Zubair. And Ibn Abbas, Radiyallahu Anhu, the Prophet's cousin, at that time, he did not give bay'ah allegiance to Abdullah bin Zubair. So Yazid wrote him a letter. And he says in the letter, and I'll read it to you. He says, I learned that you have rejected Ibn Zubair's bay'ah. I have learned that you have rejected Ibn Zubair's bay'ah and thereby remain upon my bay'ah and shown loyalty, and you should strongly encourage others to show loyalty to me and oppose Ibn Zubair, for you are someone people will listen to and accept. And I will not forget this show of loyalty and favor, and I will repay you handsomely. Who said this? Yazid. Who did he say to? Hazrat Ibn Abbas Radiyallahu Anhu, who is the Prophet's cousin. And then Ibn Abbas writes a letter to him. Look at the letter, it's beautiful. Subhanallah. He says, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. He says, by Allah, I swear by Allah, I have not refused Ibn Zubair's bay'ah to keep you happy or to seek your reward from you. The reason for my refusal, Allah knows best. Do you reckon that in hope of your reward and your favor, were you going to try to, ransom me or, what do you call it? What's the word? Bribe, that's the word. This bribery that you want to give to me. He says, do you reckon that in hope of your reward and favor, I will invite people to befriend you and create hatred for Ibn Zubair and force them to leave him? He says, I will never do this. How can I do this? For verily you killed Hussein. For verily you killed Hussein, the master and the youth of Abdul Muttalib. He says, who were the lights, who were the leading lights and the shining stars of guidance? Upon your orders, your army turned them into dust and blood in a single place. They were martyred in the state of extreme thirst, and their bodies lay unshrouded in the open, whilst the wind blew dust upon them, and the wild animals slipped up their bodies. Then eventually a nation that had nothing to do with their murder was given the ability by Allah to shroud them and bury them. Even if I sit in your comfort and find worldly honor, I have not forgotten this matter, and nor will I forget what you did to Imam Hussain, and nor will I forget what you did to the Prophet's Haram in Medina, nor will I forget what you did in Mecca. He's reminding him that not only did you murder Imam Hussain, you also, look at the dhulm you did in Medina Sharif, look at the dhulm you did in Mecca Sharif. He then said, you left Mecca in fear, then your army besieged on your enmity to Allah and His Prophet and the Ahlul Bayt, whom Allah has cleansed in all ways. He said, Imam Hussain tried to reach an agreement with you and asked to be allowed to return home, but you saw his few helpers and an opportunity moment to destroy the Ahlul Bayt and helped one another, and you attacked them like attacking the Turks or the disbelieving family. How strange is it? Look at this now. Look at this beauty. He says, how strange is it that you hope for my friendship? Who is saying this? Hazrat Abdullah ibn? Who is Abdullah ibn Abbas? He is a cousin of the Prophet. He is Hazrat Ali's cousin. He is the uncle of Imam Hussain. He is the uncle of Imam Hussain. He says, how strange is it that you hope for my friendship when you kill my father's children? He says, how strange is it that you want my friendship when you murder the children of my father? And my blood is still dripping from your sword. He says, my blood. Ibn Abbas. He doesn't say this, the blood of Hussein. He says, my blood, because Hussein is my brother, my nephew. He says, my blood is still dripping from your swords. He says, you are the murderer of my relatives. You murdered my family. Do not rejoice, O arrogant, because you have become overwhelmed, because you overwhelmed us today. He says, by Allah, victory will come from Allah. Allah will shame you. Allah will humiliate you. He says, how will you face Rasulullah on the day of judgment? How will you put your face in front of the Prophet. How will you go to the Prophet and say to the Prophet, Ya Rasulullah, give me some water from Al-Hawdar, from Al-Kawthar, when you refuse to give water to Imam Hussain? He says, what audacity will you have? Under what disguise will you go in front of the Prophet and say, my name is Yazeed, I murdered your grandson? SubhanAllah, this is the dhulm that was perpetrated. And our time is limited, and I want to conclude before the Maghrib prayer. Isha prayer. So this clearly shows that Yazeed was responsible for the death and the murdering of Imam Hussain. Another point people say was that Yazeed showed some type of remorse. Yazeed showed some type of remorse. The reason why we reject this is, if Yazeed had any remorse, tell me, why didn't Yazeed take revenge against Ibn Ziyad? Why didn't Yazeed take revenge against the people who murdered Imam Hussain? Not only did he not take revenge, he did not even sack them from their jobs. Ibn Ziyad was the governor of Kufa. He didn't arrest him, he didn't humiliate him, he didn't even give blood money to the family of the Prophet. So how could such a person say, I'm remorseful? Let's say you do something wrong. If I do wrong to you, brother, then what do I say? Okay, I want to do something right. Okay, I won't do that. So if Yazeed really had any fear of Allah, what Yazeed would have done, he would have arrested Ibn Ziyad. If Yazeed would have arrested Ibn Ziyad, if Yazeed would have arrested the army of Ibn Ziyad and put them in jail and killed them and tortured them like they tortured Imam Hussain, then we could say, yes, Yazeed was remorseful. But it wasn't remorseful, it was a political endeavor, it was a lie. On one hand, Yazeed is standing there in front of Ibn Abbas, in front of Zayn al-Abidin, and he's crying. And then when Imam Zayn al-Abidin goes, he laughs. And the ulama say, Shaykh al-Quran, Abdul Ghafoor Hazami says, the reason why Yazeed was crying, was Yazeed then realized that the Ummah will hate him until Yawm al-Qiyamah. He realized then what he had done, the dhulm that he had perpetrated or done. And the final two parts, very quickly. One, some people, to legitimize Yazeed and to praise him, some people to praise Yazeed ala la'natullahu alayhi, or to have some goodness towards him, they then quote a hadith from Bukhari Sharif. And this is around in many clips on the internet, unfortunately. And they said that the Prophet said that paradise is guaranteed for the first batch of my ummah that participate in a naval expedition in Constantinople. This is what they said. They said Constantinople was the headquarters of the Byzantine Empire. The Prophet said the first naval expedition, all of the people in that army, Allah has forgiven. They're all from Jannah. Are you all following me now? They then say that Yazeed was part of this army. And even though he did all of those bad things, because of that reason Allah forgive him. Our answer to this is, first of all, there's no hadith called Hadith of Constantinople. The word Constantinople is not used. It's an ignorant view. The hadith is as following in Bukhari Sharif. In volume 4, hadith number 175. The Prophet said what? He says, أول جيش من أمتي يغزون مدينة القيصر مغفور لهم. أو كما قال عليه الصلاة والسلام. The Prophet said, paradise, Jannah, is guaranteed for those people. Allah has forgiven the sins of all of those people who will participate in the first naval expedition. Yazeed was not part of this army at all. Why? Because there is another hadith in Sunan Abu Dawood Sharif, which is a hadith of Sahih, and it says that Aslam Abi Imran narrated and said that when we went out of Medina Sharif, when we went out of Medina Sharif to fight and to attempt to have a war in Constantinople, Abdurrahman bin Khalid bin Walid was the leader of the army. Who was the leader? Abdurrahman bin Khalid bin Walid. And Imam al-Tabari says that the first expedition of the Muslims that fought against a naval expedition was in the year 44 after Hijri. What year? 44. That was the first war. And remember the Prophet said, Awwalu Jaysh, the first army, the first batch of army. And in many other books, Al-Kamil fi Tariq al-Dimishqi, Ibn Athir says that Sayyidina Muawiyah radiallahu anhu sent an army in 50 after Hijri. He sent a large army under the leadership of Sufyan bin Auf as its leader, and Yazeed went in that army. How do we know Yazeed went in that army? Because that was the battle that Abu Ayyub al-Ansari radiallahu anhu was shaheed. And when Abu Ayyub al-Ansari was when he was fatally attacked, Yazeed and Sufyan bin Auf came to him on his deathbed, and they said to him, and they questioned him and said to him, they said, do you have any last wishes for us? Yazeed is saying this to who? To Abu Ayyub al-Ansari. Abu Ayyub al-Ansari said nothing. And then if you go to the books of history, we learn very clear, extremely very clear, that Abu Ayyub al-Ansari passed away, according to every scholar of history, 49 after Hijri. What year? 49 after Hijri. When was the first battle? When was the first naval expedition? 44 after Hijri. Yazeed was not even in the army. So how can you use this hadith to substantiate that Yazeed was a man of Jannah? Secondly, when Hazrat Muawiyah sent Yazeed and said to Yazeed, fight in jihad, Yazeed refused to do it. He kept himself in his tent on a high chair with his wife, which was called Kulthum at that time, one of the women, and he drank alcohol all day. And when the news came back that the Muslims that were fighting were hungry and thirsty and were cold, he used to laugh at them and say, let them be hungry, let them have coldness, let them die, I am enjoying my life here. When that news got back to Amir Muawiyah radiallahu anhu, Muawiyah then forced his son and said, you have to go now. That was in what year? 49 after Hijri. How do we know it was 49 after Hijri? Because that was the battle in which Hazrat Abu Ayyub al-Ansari was martyred. And the ulama say the first attack on Constantinople was in the year 42, the second was 43, and Hazrat Bishr bin Abi Arka was the leader of that army. The third was 44, and this was led by Abdurrahman bin Khalid bin Walid. Some say the next attack was 46, which was led by Malik bin Abdurrahman and Abdurrahman bin Khalid bin Walid, and 47 was the next one, which was led by Malik bin Abdurrahman. And Yazeed, lastly Yazeed went in what year? 50 after Hijri. So maybe the 6th or the 7th battle or naval expedition that went out. In other words, you cannot use this hadith, Awwalu Jaysh min ummati yabzuna min Madinat al-Qaysara. You cannot use this hadith to legitimize, to praise Yazeed. It is not permissible at all. And I will spend, and again, I really come to the end of my presentation to give you a full overview of who Yazeed was. Very quickly, Imam Hussain, he was beloved to the Prophet ﷺ. He was born in Sha'ban in the 4th Hijri, and when he was born, the Prophet ﷺ read the adhan, the iqamah in his ears. The Prophet picked him up and he sucked on the tongues of the Prophet ﷺ. And there's many fadail regarding Imam Hussain. Let me share with you 3 hadith and I will conclude and we will call it for question and answers very quickly before the Maghrib time. Before we do all, sorry, Isha. I'm still obsessed with Maghrib. Yes, we started at Maghrib. Number 1 day the Prophet ﷺ, he saw Imam Hassan and Hussain, his 2 sons. And he said to Imam Hassan, wrestle with Hussain. Have a wrestling fight. And Fatima Zahra heard him. She said, oh my father, Ya Rasulullah, you telling Hassan to fight with Hussain, but Hussain is younger, who will help Hussain? And the Prophet said, Jibreel is helping him now. Jibreel is at his service. Another hadith, on the day of Eid, the eve of Eid, Imam Hussain and Imam Hassan came to the Prophet came to their mother, Fatima Zahra, and they said, oh my mother, everyone's got new clothes but we don't have clothes. Everyone has new clothes but we don't have clothes. Can you do something? And Fatima cried and she did dua. Oh Allah, remove this mushkilat from me. At that moment someone knocked on the door. She opened the door and it was the tailor of the Prophet. He says, the Prophet has given you these clothes by Al-Hassan al-Hussain. When the Prophet came back to her later, Fatima says, Ya Rasulullah, where did you get those clothes from? Tell me. Because she knew the circumstance. The Prophet never used to have any spare money. Whatever he had, he gave in sadaqah. She said, oh my father, tell me. The Prophet said, the angels brought it to me from Allah. This is a gift from Allah, from the angels. And in another hadith, the Prophet said what? He said, Hussain is from me and I am from Hussain. He says, I love Hussain. Whoever loves Hussain loves me. Whoever hates Hussain hates me. Oh Allah, bear witness to this. I love Hussain. So, concluding, you have 2 personalities. One hand, a tyrant, a dictator, a murderer, a fornicator, an adulterer, the worst human being who the ulama say has no legitimacy to any leadership on one hand. And on the other hand, you have the character of Imam Hussain, the son of the Prophet. And Ali radiallahu anhu once said to Fatima, joking with his wife, to please her, he says, oh Fatima, are you not happy that you are the master of all the women in Jannah and your 2 sons are the master of all the youth in Jannah? But the Prophet said what? The Prophet said in one hadith, today the Prophet was extremely happy. The Sahaba said, Ya Rasulullah, why are you happy? He said, an angel came today, and that angel never came to the earth before, and it will never come again. What did the angel say? The angels gave good news from Allah. He says that Allah has made Fatima the master of all the women in Jannah. Sayyidat al-Saif al-Jannah. And what did she do? What is the second thing? The angel said her 2 sons are the master of all the youth in Jannah. So you have 2 characters. One had Yazeed and on one hand Imam Hussain. One is a tyrant, one is a Sahabi. One is a man who loves alcohol, one is the one who loves Zamzam. One is the one who loves playing with women, and one is the one who loves praying to Allah all night. One is the one who doesn't read Quran, and one is the one who listens to music and poetry, and one is the one who spends all of his life praying to Allah. Now you make the decision yourself, and you make the exception yourself, or you make the conclusion yourself, who is righteous and who is valid. May Allah put into our heart the love of the Ahlul Bayt, and may Allah make us distinguish between haq and batil, inshallah. Fasallallahu ta'ala ala Sayyidina Muhammad wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa sallam. We will take only 1 to 2 questions only because of the time of Salat al-Maghrib. That's an Isha.
Question here. Is this selecting how was the start of the time of
the way that the Khulafa al-Rashid elected a leader who was voting, all of the Sahaba, the Akabirin of the Sahaba agreed and they all elected Sayyidina Abu Bakr as-Siddiq as a leader. Then that leader has the discretion to appoint a successor. He he appointed Umar Radi Allahu Anhu. After Umar appointed a committee of 6 Sahaba. Those 6 Sahaba then chose Uthman ibn Affan as a leader. After the death of Uthman, all of the great Sahaba then elected Sayyidina Ali. So all of them accept and vote, if you want to call it in one way. Al-Fisq and Fujur. Fasting is someone who does haram and he doesn't care what he's doing. And the Fajr is the one who does it publicly. What is the person who does haram and hides the haram? He is a Fasiq. And Fajr is the one who does haram and he does it publicly. Both of these apply to Yazeed. Because he did it privately and he did it publicly. And he had no remorse for it at all. Sorry, which ones, brother? It's not coming to my Oh, the Aqidah, the 2 schools of Aqidah, yes. No, one is Ash'ari and one is Maturidi. The Ash'ari school is found by Imam Abu al-Hassan al-Ash'ari, ala rahmatul alayhi. His followers are mainly Shafi'i and Maliki. And we follow Imam al-Maturidi, Abu Mansur al-Maturidi, ala rahmatul alayhi. These are 2 Imams of Aqidah. 2 great Imams of Ahle Sunnah Wal Jammah. Like we have 4 Imams in fiqh, we have 2 Imams in Aqidah.
Is there any hadith of Muslim Dunya before Constantinople? Anyway.
There are some hadith which say Constantinople, but not regarding Awwal Jaysh. Awwal Jaysh min ummati yaghzuna min Madinat al-Qaysara. Qaysara is used. Caesar city is used. Constantinople is not used in any hadith. Apart from the hadith from Sunnah Abu Dawood, which said that when they went to Constantinople, Abdurrahman bin Khalid bin Walid was the leader.
Exactly, there's a view out there, we represent the hadith of RadiAllahu Anhu. They under the honor of the box, some of the factors under the box, granted the Jannah under the 7th generation, the first one.
There's no such hadith. No such hadith. It's fabricated. No such hadith.
Exactly, you give the view that somehow the Yazeed used to give the argument that if the Ahlul is, for example, is a Islam religion, we know obviously that the Bible they have today, there is no such official valid and authentic thing saying that it is permissible. So when he gave the view,
it was an ignorant view. And based on that, Imam al-Usri al-Baghdadi, ala rahmatullahi alayhi, Ruh al-Ma'ani, Tafsir al-Ma'ani, Imam al-Baghdadi called him a non-Muslim based on that hadith. Do you have anything else, brother? Because we are very limited time left for Ramazan. I want to. Okay, let's do dua. Allahumma salli ala Sayyidina Mawlana Muhammad wa ala ali Sayyidina wa Mawlana Muhammad wa barik wa sallim wa sallim alayhi. Oh Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala put into our hearts the love of the Ahlul Bayt and the Sahaba and the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Wa sallallahu ta'ala Sayyidina Muhammad wa ala ali.